Hello, welcome to this your channel of the Better Eurofan. That's me. Czechia was somehow getting consolidated in the contest on these last years, and it seemed that it was about to achieve another good result during the last edition. But however, the energetic proposal presented by ICO did not get enough votes, being close to get the qualification to the grand final after placing 11th, which has been quite unfair in my opinion. Even so, the Central European country has kept its participation with the goal of keep showing the best of the Czech musical talent to the rest of Europe. Now we will see who has been the artist who had the occasion to represent the Bohemian nation in Basel. Let's go! For today's episode, I'm going to review the Czech entry for Eurovision 2025, which has been represented by the singer Adonxs with the song Kiss Kiss Goodbye. It is a farewell kiss that can mean a lot of things, but the best will be discover the meaning of this interesting proposal that he is presenting us both musically and artistically. Having said that, let's move on with the review. As usual, we start by reviewing the biography and career of this multifaceted artist before leaving his Eurovision dream in Switzerland. Adam Prologue, mostly well known as Adonxs, is a Slovak singer, songwriter, dancer, model, and actor. He is originally from the town of Mijava and raised in the town of Senica, both of them located in eastern Slovakia, very close to the Czech border, and currently lives in the Czech capital, Prague. In this case, it is the second time that the country is represented by a Slovak artist after Teresa Čechová, who is part of the group Vesna as a bassist and that represented Czechia 2 years ago during the edition held in Liverpool, United Kingdom. He shows a wide interest for singing and dancing since very early age, inspired by his elder sister. In fact, he will follow her steps by joining in a junior dance group and starting to take both singing and piano classes. However, when he reached puberty, he experimented a quite drastic change in his vocal registry from being a tenor to a counterbass, which will cause him to give up on singing for a while. He will focus his efforts then into dancing, performing with professional dance groups and winning dancing competitions in the discipline of urban dance for 5 times in his native country, both in the junior and senior categories. In 2010, at the age of 15, he moves with his family to the Slovak capital, Bratislava, where he will continue his high school studies, also studying to take acting classes in an art academy, and 1 year later he will have his first incursions as a model by singing a contract with a modeling agency. Thereafter, he will rediscover his passion for singing, moving then to Prague to be classically trained by a renowned Czech opera singer, aiming to recover his vocal range from his teenage period. In the process, he lived as a freelance artist for a year until he decides to move to London, United Kingdom, with the goal of starting his musical career from there. For that, he studies the degree of songwriting and creative musicianship at the prestigious Bain Institute, although he struggled to pay both his tuition and living expenses in the British capital, taking various jobs serving coffees, babysitting, modeling, and as a barman in a gay bar. Eventually, with much effort and sacrifice, he will finish his studies in the Musical Institute, graduating with first-class honors. He will start his musical career in 2015, initially with the group Bass that he will found together with a former classmate from Slovakia, to which 2 of the members will join after moving to London. They will release a single EP in 2018, which was oriented to an alternative pop and baroque pop combined with classical music, mostly well known as classic crossover. The band performed in venues, musical festivals, and private raves until they suffered the halt during 2020 in the midst of the restrictions due to the lockdown for the COVID-19 pandemic in the United Kingdom. This fall will be a turning point for him, then deciding to leave the band and the country to go back to Prague in 2021 to pursue a solo career. That same year, he will start to get noticed both in his native Slovakia and Czechia with his participation in the second season of the singing competition Superstar, which is the joint Czech-Slovak version of the Idol franchise, where he went on to win at the end of the season. That victory would lead him to sign a contract deal with a world-renowned record label in early 2022 under the stage name of Adonxs. Although you may have a slight idea, his stage name makes reference to the cat from the Greek mythology Adonxs, which is identified as the god of beauty and desire, usually feminized and portrayed as sexually ambiguous and androgynous in the ancient Greek literature, despite being a symbol of masculinity. From there, he had the idea of changing the I for the X, symbolizing precisely that androgynous and non-binary phase that he himself has and recognizes. He will release 3 singles that eventually will take a part of his debut studio album, officially released at the end of that same year, reaching high positions both in the Slovak and Czech musical charts and gaining awards and acknowledgements as an emerging artist in both countries. This release will be supported by a promotional tour in Czechia and Slovakia, and with his participation in the 7th season of the Slovak version of Your Face Sounds Familiar, where he will finish as the runner-up at the end of the season. During 2023, he will participate in musical festivals in Slovakia and Hungary. He will release 2 more singles, and more recently in last year, he will release his first official single in his native language, Slovak, taking into account that he usually writes his songs in English. Musically speaking, he grows up listening to big artists like Queen, Depeche Mode, Elton John, Seal, or Prince. He cites among his musical influences to artists like Woodkid, Lordi, Dua Lipa, Birdie, or Florence and the Machine, while his performing style, sometimes described as eccentric and androgynous, takes inspiration of great performers like Freddie Mercury or David Bowie. In his personal life, Adonxs is openly gay, and although he does not define himself as an activist for the LGBTI community rights in his native country, he has often participated in different activities, from advertising campaigns to LGBTI pride concerts organized in the Slovak capital Bratislava, which will have earned him recognition for his activism, which has a special significance, taking into account that in Slovakia there are not currently political and social initiatives to protect property to this population group in comparison with other countries among the European Union. According to what we have seen so far, Adonxs is a quite multifaceted artist, although while he has gained a wide recognition both in Slovakia and Czechia, it is true that he has been needing some boost to get noticed properly in the rest of the continent, and he has seen Eurovision in this case as a good showcase to make it, being also one of his dreams to accomplish as a musical artist, as he has revealed himself in many interviews. But now the classic question that you come ahead is, how is that he, being a Slovak artist, has been selected to represent Czechia at the contest instead of his native Slovakia? The answer is simple and complex at the same time. In one hand, Slovakia has not been participating since many years ago in the contest due to financial issues to fund its participation, and it seems unlikely in the short term. And in the other hand, due to the fact of living in Czechia since some years ago, having been developing his musical career from that, it makes sense that he decided to represent the Bohemian country at Eurovision. Let's see then how he gets the opportunity to live the Eurovision experience. After confirming his participation in early September of last year, the Czech broadcaster opened the submission period for the artists and songwriters who wanted to send their proposals, closing it by the end of that same month, but the subtlety that there was not any mention to the national final they were being organizing in the last few years, Eurovision Song Contest. Sometime later, the broadcaster will confirm that, for this time, they will effectively revert to an internal selection method, with the goal of focusing the budget resources to other aspects of the entry selected, like the promotion or the staging. In this sense, the proposal will be reviewed in many audition rounds at closed doors by an international jury, followed by musical professionals and former Eurovision representatives, as well as by a demoscopy jury formed by 900 members from 3 countries and a focal group, thus taking a quite similar approach used by Switzerland in their internal selection processes in recent years. After a thorough evaluation process of the received proposals in a span of more than 2 months, it will be then in early last December when it will be finally announced the selection of Adonxs as the Czech representative that will travel to Basel, with the release of both the song and its accompanying official music video will be made in early last March. a track that literally talks about kisses and farewells. Now I'm going to analyze this proposal in full detail with which he has weighed the Czech colors at the contest. The melody is a pop ballad which uses an instrumentation that evokes much of the style of the soundtracks from the James Bond movies mostly, with the exception in this case of the instrumental bridge that is more based in electropop, giving certain disruptive touch. Adonxs' voice, by the other hand, impresses by his versatility and the shades it has throughout the track, from markedly low and deep registers during the verses to the high and intense registers appreciated both in the chorus and the outro. Regarding the lyrics, it has been written fully in English by Adonxs himself together with a wide group of songwriters both local and international, where stands out the Luxembourgish singer and songwriter Adriano Lopez da Silva, mostly well known as Child, who was one of the contestants of the very first edition of the Luxembourg Song Contest. About the context behind it, it talks about a love relationship, although from a little more conflicted and chaotic perspective, telling those fluctuations between wild passion and sorrow feelings, which often cause disillusion, frustration, and uncertainty. This is easily perceived when you read the lyrics more in detail, appreciating that dysfunctional and toxic dynamic between those two people that are a couple throughout the track, implying in this case that he will be the most injured in that dynamic, maintaining a vicious circle from which apparently is quite difficult to escape. While it transmits a very intense emotional state as part of the bittersweet nature of that love can have sometimes, the track shows how certain dynamics into a love relationship can lead in many cases to diminish our dignity and mental health, and that many times we do not realize until it happens. The key is having enough self-esteem and emotional strength to face those situations and break the vicious circle, although for many people it can be something quite difficult to achieve, but not impossible. Having seen a little more about the song, let's see how it's reflected the complicated contest described on the through the official music video. The blog starts with a scene in which Adonxs is seen jogging in a running belt while he uses a respirator, having many people around him that will be doctors and scientists, which we suppose they are monitoring his vital functions while he jogs. Shortly after, another change of scenery happens, now with Adonxs in a secure room, while a mechanic voice is heard announcing that the time machine is set to travel 100 years in the future, implying in this case that Adonxs will be the time traveler. Just before the activation of the time machine, the scene suddenly changes to the past, being Adonxs together with a group of scientists giving a press conference that is transmitted live by television while he starts to perform the first verse of the song. I suppose in this case that the scenery will be set in the 1960s or the 1970s, judging by the video cameras used, the furniture in the press conference room, and the costumes of the characters in the music video. As the press conference progresses, we can realize that it was the moment in which they were announcing a pilot experiment for time travels, introducing him as the first time traveler. Once the press conference finishes, a boy that was among the attendees reaches to Adonxs to ask him for an autograph, looking himself excited after having it, and he shows it to one of the journalists that were also in the press conference. For the second verse, there is another change of scenery, seeing different shots of Adonxs that is still performing physical tests in the laboratory, other ones of him in a meeting with a group of scientists that are working on the experiment, standing on one of them in which he's staring through a lead with the device he will use to perform the time travel, and then other additional shots of him sitting on a chair while an electroencephalography is performed on him, with two scientists monitoring his brain activity. By the second chorus, it goes back momentarily to the initial scene with Adonxs in the laboratory jogging in the running belt, noticing in some moment that one of the scientists injects a sort of black liquid in the serum holder he has next to him, causing him to feel dizzy and suddenly starting to have hallucinations, leading up next to the dance break of the instrumental bridge, seeing Adonxs doing a choreography inside the laboratory celebratory, in line with the most energetic part of the track, with some of the scientists becoming dancers and joining him in that choreography. Shortly after, it goes back to the present time, where they are preparing everything to do the experiment with the time machine, with Adonxs entering into the secure room, while some commentators from a transmission cabin are also getting ready to broadcast the experiment live. Other scientists inside the secure room are with him finishing the last details before starting, and just in the moment when the countdown for the activation of the time machine ends, Adonxs changed the travel setting and now to 20 years in the past, as it could be seen in the indicator of the control panel, surprising all of the people present there. With the final chorus, you can notice that the time machine is starting to work, judging by the ups and downs of electricity noticed in the secure room, and with the convulsions experienced by Adonxs, implying that he will have pain and suffering during the functioning of the time machine. Then it is noticed that the scene becomes more dystopian, which will imply that the time travel is working, seeing now himself when he was a kid in many different instances inside what it will be the family house, with him leaving his room to go down quickly by the stairs until the entrance of the house. Just when the performance finishes, the shot is focused in the child Adonxs, which is in the entrance of the house while seeing his father putting luggage in the car trunk, with the little one turning around for an instant to see his son motionless at the door. This scene, although it could seem simple and intriguing, it has a lot of meaning. This part represents that moment in which his biological father leaves the family house when he was a kid, a fact that really happened during his childhood and then marked him for life. This perfect and paradoxically connects with the meaning and the message of the song, portraying the pain and the consequences of growing up with an absent father, addressed as well in the constant search for unconditional love in other people. After the interesting concept presented in the music video, there was much curiosity on how he would present it ahead of the live performances, although there was some kind of showcase snippet prior to the release of the track with the official music video. And it is because Adonxs had the chance to present a partially acoustic first version of the track in LA last February, after being one of the interval acts during the first semi-final of the Eurovision Song Contest, the well-known national final for the contest. In this case, the performance was focused on him singing the song at the piano initially, until he gets out from the piano by the second chorus to perform the remaining of the song at the front of the stage, but omitting the instrumental bridge that we will eventually know later with the official music video. While the performance looks sober mostly, he showed an absolutely flawless vocal performance, with which somehow he succeeded to grab attention and raise appreciation about the proposal ahead of knowing the final version of the track. Sometime later, he was also together with his fellow contestants presenting his proposal live in the different Eurovision pre-parties of the season, having a pretty good performance in most of them, eventually incorporating the dance break of the instrumental bridge being joined by dancers. For the staging in Basel, it would recreate much of the dynamic of the performances previously seen during the season, according to what it could be seen during the first rehearsals. But Adonxs and the male dancers on the stage are wearing outfits similar to the ones in the music video in white, although in the case of Adonxs it is more outstanding by wearing 4 white belts in the abdominal area, which is combined as well with a long white jacket which has its upper part covered with brilliant black sequins. The lighting is mostly white, while the visual graphics are not that outstanding, probably with the intention to focus the performance on him with the dancers. Watching his live performance in the second semi-final, it begins in house screen with Adonxs performing the song at the bottom of the stage, where stands out an element in the microphone that looks like a sort of spider, not having clear if it has a particular meaning in addition to the fact that it gets your attention. Shortly after, the screen widens, noticing the lighting effects that the visual graphics are showing shapes in perspective, while Adonxs is showcasing more stage presence during the first chorus. With the second verse, the male dancers start to appear interacting in a synchronized way with Adonxs initially, then later starting to perform a contemporary dance around him until there is a moment in which they take him from his arms where he slightly leans to the front and thereafter taking off the jacket. Just by the second chorus, it is noticed that Adonxs misses the tempo, although he recovers it very quickly while resuming his interaction with the male dancers. Then later comes the most expected part of the performance, the dance break of the instrumental bridge. The light panels slide down for the lighting changes in red tones while they perform the already well-known choreography from different angles, sliding out these panels again once the choreography is finished, resuming the white lining from before while Adonxs walks little by little to the front of the stage. With the song's outro, the dynamic is focused in Adonxs having his vocal extravaganza moments while the male dancers are doing more contemporary dances around him, standing out the moment in which he leans back while the male dancers perform the same action by creating a sort of echo effect with additional special effects until the performance finishes in whole screen with all of them seen to the front. I have seen the performance quite right until the moment when he sent out of tempo by the second chorus, and I felt bad for him because in that instant I felt that the presentation of the whole proposal was somewhat ruined after not being flawless as expected. With that mistake aside, the remaining of the performance was pretty good, but it was possible that that stumble would diminish his chances of qualifying, which unfortunately was evidenced after the voting results by placing 12th in his semi-final. Shortly after the contest, a recording of the live performance in the semi-final would be replaced with the one done in the dress rehearsal the day prior in the Eurovision official YouTube channel, probably to make some justice for him ahead of that failed time he had. Making a summary of all the comments, the shock entry for this year was pretty good. I saw this proposal quite interesting since the very beginning, although while it is true that I was not expecting the dance break of the instrumental bridge at all with the release of the music video initially, I finally like it, as it gives an interesting effect ahead of the song's outro that is much more intense. I had trust that he will qualify to the grand final despite the fact that I expected something a little more interesting for this staging, but I think that the stumble he had in the second chorus have influenced his possibilities to qualify. And it is a pity because being Adonxs a full artist and he had many assets to be in the grand final, but with this happen, linked to the fact that he was in a complicated semi-final, it was not possible. Even so, it is a song that I'm still liking a lot nowadays and that has undoubtedly a spot in my playlist. The result represented the second disqualification in a row for the Central European country at the contest, which has seen frustrated its attempt to be among the finalists again despite presenting a proposal with a lot of possibilities. Despite the result achieved, Adonxs has stated to be grateful for accomplishing his dream of being on the Eurovision stage and for all the love and the support received throughout the season, which has been reflected especially with his song appearing among the 50 most viral songs in the musical platforms in many European countries. About his future plans, it is pretty sure that he will be keeping busy with many projects in the following months as a dancer, model or actor, and although he released an EP some days before the contest where he was included the acoustic version of the song with which he has participated, possibly he will also focus on writing more songs for what it will be his second studio album. This has been the shock proposal of this year for the contest. What do you think about this one? Was it one of your favorites for the edition or was it another one of the bunch instead? Whatever is your opinion, let me know in the comments down below thus we can keep the discussion. And this is it for today's episode. Thus this video has been of your taste. Take a few moments to give a like so you can help me bring me your support for this content to reach to more people. Subscribe to my channel to be aware of the upcoming episodes and enable notifications by the bell and find me through my social media as well. Take care and see you in the next episode. Bye bye.